I'd just like to say take this opportunity to say a few words of thanks to the people that have enabled the lab to come about. But before I say the words of thanks, I'd just like to say what this room actually, in the room next door, is really all about. It's about the globalization of music. Music is now spreading more quickly than ever before in human history. And the study of the patterns of the spread of music around the globe, which countries are, for example, ahead of the curve at spotting rising talent, new artists, is a great interest from the perspective of the digital humanities. So that's really what this lab is about. We'll also be studying things like music and migration. When people move abroad, and huge numbers of people are now migrating across the globe for various reasons, both political and economic, they tend to take the music of their childhood, their youth with them. It's their musical fingerprint. And this lab and the data set that we will have access to in this lab will enable us to study that musical fingerprint as it spreads across the globe. We also want to look at the trajectories of fame of artists as their music is born, rises in popularity, and also as it falls. And the data for the lab will have access to is backdated to 2007, and that means that we'll be able to do longitudinal studies. And the deal with Nokia is for 5 years. So by the end of the project, we will have 10 years of data, which means that we'll really be able to look at those trajectories in more detail than we've been able to do so far. So that's just a sort of very brief some of the brief highlights. We've got 2 students working in the lab at the moment, James Rennick, who's a music student, and Jyoti Bansal, who's in psychology. And they're going to be working over the summer as well, joined by 1 or 2 other students. And they will be contributing to the conferences. We have 5 conferences that the lab is going to be attending and presenting the research at. So that's a basic outline of the lab and the research which is going to be going on. But I said I was going to say the thanks. So I want to take the opportunity to thank various people, one of whom is not here at the moment, and that is John Connolly. John was on my interview panel when I came almost to the day 2 years ago to Mac for an interview. And I want to tell you a little story just surrounding that. When I was here for my interview, I picked up a copy of the Silhouette, and I saw that Stephen Elop, who is the CEO of Nokia, had just been to McMaster as an ex-graduate to give a speech about his experience as being a CEO of a major company. And I had previously been working as a consultant for Nokia, looking at their music from a psychological perspective, trying to pull out the human stories within that. And I then went back to the UK after my interview and contacted Nokia and said, look, do you realise the potential for creating an interesting relationship, a more long-term, interesting, deeper relationship between academia and industry, based on this very interesting connection between McMaster and Nokia, and they absolutely jumped at the chance. So I was very grateful for John at that time, who I spoke briefly about the project with and really encouraged me to go for it. The other person I'd like to thank, who's standing right at the back there, is Mike. Mike Schutz, one of my partners in crime in the School of the Arts, who also encouraged me to go for the Nokia partnership, and it's been really supportive. There are other people like Dr. Al-Bastawi, the VP Research, who has supported not only through encouragement but also financially the lab, and also Dr. Croster, the Dean of Humanities, who has also given funds and this fantastic space so we can do the research that we need to do. So there are probably other people, yes. One person very important to mention is Hugh Couchman. Hugh is the director of SharkNet, and SharkNet is the high-performance computing consortium that does the hard-end computing for the lab. So the computers here are real sort of portals to the high-performance computing that's done by SharkNet. So the lab is being supported by SharkNet and by Hugh Couchman. So I'd just like to say thanks to him as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting me to the opening of the Digital Music Lab in association with Nokia. I'm truly grateful and very flattered that you did that. This is one of the most interesting projects I have seen in the last 5 or 6 years as a Vice President of Research at McMaster University. It's really it's really very significant, and it's not just because of the interaction with the private sector, which, if you know anything about me, you will know that I'm a big fan of this. But that's not the main point. The main point is that I think it opens new opportunities for students, both undergraduate and graduate, to really work in an area which is very exciting. I think it has quite a bit of potential, I would say significant potential, to promote interdisciplinary research in this university, which is some things that we're very interested in. So I can see a laboratory like this in the next few years being a major source of knowledge, of generation of knowledge in music informatics. This, folks, is very important. This is extremely important. The intersection, or the potential intersection, between the humanities and other disciplines, whether it's technology or science or whatever, I think is, in my opinion, I think is something that needs to be nurtured, needs to be encouraged, and I am certainly, from my point of view, I'm very much fascinated by the whole idea, and very much in support of the whole idea. Matthew, I think this is great. Congratulations. It goes to your credit, man. I think this is just magnificent. And I hope that it works out for you and you grow this thing and you take over this building.